that little voice in my head saying, you look too young, you don't have any money, your shitty Nissan pickup truck sucks, and all this stuff, to all of a sudden it's like, damn, I had this $40,000 check, and I'm just like, my life changed. Like, I knew right then, like, that was the day my life changed, because I went from hope to knowing. And when that happened, I was like, I'm gonna collapse time. I'm gonna become the #1 wholesaler in the state of Arizona, and I'm gonna smoke everybody.
All right, guys, welcome back to Young Money Mindset. This is season 2, episode 15. We have Cody Sperber here, the clever investor, also has an awesome company called Floor Daddy. In this episode, we talk about a lot of really killer things. So Cody's a guy that I've looked up to for quite a while. I think he kicked off Clever Investor. Some of you guys may have heard of the Clever Investor. That's Cody's brand, and I think that was close to that 2010
That's what I kicked off in 2010.
Yeah, so, and I don't know if you guys remember back in the day though, 2010, I remember some advertisements that I used to see and really started loving like the whole investment space, real estate, and ended up diving in head first. So let me kick us off today. I mean, what key moments do you think in your career, going all the way back to 2010, when you got really, I think, going up with Clever Investor? And, you know, I think the first 9 months you didn't do your real estate deal, right? It took about 9 months.
So that's when I first started real estate in 2003.
Okay.
Yeah, so separate the two. We have me starting real estate, doing real estate for seven years, then starting the education business and scaling that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So 2003, brand new investor, doesn't do a deal for 9 months. And some of you guys out there, you know, maybe getting into real estate, or you're a seasoned investor already and you may be going through a little bit of a lull right now. You may be thinking like in your business, hey, you know, things aren't firing on all cylinders. I mean, Cody had 9 months of not doing a deal, his first 9 months. He actually got out of real estate. So why don't you tell us that story of kind of that first deal, and then we'll go right into your career.
Yeah, so my friend Jeremy flipped a house. At the time, I was going to ASU. Real estate was not on my brain. You know, I just got out of the Navy, and I was just trying to figure out like what I want to do with my life. But he flipped a house and made 80 grand. And probably like 4 or 5 months before that, we were partying in Old Town, and I remember at the end of the night, he was puking behind a dumpster. And then 4 months later, he's driving a brand new Mercedes. And I'm like, dude, how'd you pull this off? And he said, I flipped a house. And I said, what do you mean you flipped a house? Like, where'd you get money to buy a house? And he goes, I didn't buy the house. I just flipped the house. And I said, well, how much money did you have to put in to do this? And he said, none. And I said, that's impossible. That's not how real estate works. And he said, oh yeah, it is this concept called wholesaling. A mortgage guy in town taught me how to do this. It's kind of like deal finding and your matchmaking. And he grabs a napkin and pencils out wholesaling literally on a napkin. And that's how the seed was planted of like, oh, I could do no money down real estate. That 9 month period was me. You got to go back to 2003. There is no awesome podcast. There's no meetup that you can go to. Like none of this stuff existed. It was little ads in the back of a newspaper that said real estate seminar, Reno, Nevada, $350 and a phone number.
Wow.
And so I would, you know, ask around town, like who can teach me? And nobody was really teaching. There wasn't content, there wasn't social. So I would look in the back of the newspapers, I would get on a plane, I'd fly to Reno, and I would buy courses from these amazing sales guys, Al Lowry and you know Russ Whitney and all these guys that were doing all these seminars. And I was a great seminar buyer. I bought everything, every book and tape and course and boot camp, and I was doing it all. It took me 9 months. It was like drinking from a fire hose. I didn't do a deal. I ran out of money. I had about $30,000 in credit card debt, flying all over the place, trying to figure this out. And that's around the time where my parents sat me down and said, real estate's not your thing. Rich people do real estate. You should probably stay focused. And that's when I actually quit the business for about 4 months. So it actually took me 14 months to do my first deal. The only way I did my deal is a friend of mine invited me to go to one more seminar. At the time, it was a funny story. I was so broke, I needed a job. So I was walking through ASU campus, and I don't know did any of you guys go to ASU? Okay, there's the MU, right? It's like where all the students hang out. And there was a bulletin board, and it said, real estate developer needs bookkeeper. $34 grand a year. And so I called up the number and he said, come on down, my bookkeeper just quit. And I showed up and I took one accounting class at this point, and I was just getting a degree in finance. I'd taken like one finance class, one accounting class. And he goes, can you do books? And I lied and I said, hell yeah, I could do books. And he goes, great, you're hired. You start Monday. And this was on a Friday. Well, I went to the bookstore and I bought Bookkeeping for Dummies, and I learned how to do books over the weekend. And that's how I got a job doing books for this developer. So I quit, but I was still kind of in the game a little bit because I'm watching the money come in and out of this guy's books. And then my friend, a couple months later, said, do you want to go to a seminar? And I said, are you freaking crazy? There's no way I'm going to another seminar. Like, I'm just got a job. I'm just trying to get my life together. And he said, I swear this one's different. This is put on by an old timer named Jack Miller. This is not a pitch fest. They're not going to sell you anything. This is real estate investors doing real deals. It's a real community. I promise you, if you don't love it, I'll pay for your entire trip. I said, okay, I'll go. And when I walked in, it was the greatest experience I've ever had. I've been to a lot of seminars up to that point. Jack was the real deal. And there was about 300 people in the room, and they were all older. They had been together for like 15, 20 years. They were talking, this is before Pace Morby was talking about sub-twos and all this stuff. They were talking about wraparound mortgages and contract for deeds and AITDs and sub-twos, but they didn't call them sub-twos. And all this creative, they called it transactional engineering. And I was just blown away. It was like Yoda was talking to me, and I'm like, God, I got to get more of this. And I convinced a guy at the bar named Lyle Wall to become my first real estate mentor. And that 2 months after finally having a mentor, I did my first deal.
Wow.
And that's the difference between trying to me do it on my own, thinking that, like all ego, right? I can figure this out, drinking from a fire hose, failing. Then I get a guy who's probably got, like, at the time, he was in his 60s, and he probably had about 16 to 17 million in his self-directed Roth that he had built up over the years, all tax-free deal making. And I did my first deal. It was a $40,000 deal. It was a foreclosure, a bankruptcy, and a divorce. And I didn't know what to do, and I asked Lyle for advice. I said, I got this lead. It was in downtown Phoenix and in the historic district. And I said, I got this lead. He's got a foreclosure, a bankruptcy, and a divorce. I don't know anything about any of those. What do I do? And he said, come here, I'm going to lean in. I'm going to tell you a secret of how to do this deal. And I leaned in, and he goes, it's real simple. Just be authentic and enthusiastic. And I'm like, and how technically do I do this deal? And he said, be authentic and enthusiastic. And I got pissed because I was like, that's the worst advice I had ever heard. I have no clue what I'm doing. But he was onto something. And the reason I got that deal is everybody else rolled into that guy's house, slick, salesy, pitching, had a solution, had, all their plan all memorized. And I just went there to talk and to learn about the guy's situation and ask open-ended questions. And somehow, magically, I went from the doorstep. 20 minutes later, I'm in the guy's house. An hour later, he's making me spaghetti. And we did this deal. And I said, dude, I felt so bad for his situation. I said, I am the least qualified person in the state of Arizona to help you out. I know nothing about any of these things. But if I can help you, I'm going to do it whether I get the deal or not. And he said, get your pen. I want to do a deal with you. And he helped me fill out my own contract.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was great. And that was my first deal. And that gave me, I don't know if you've ever heard the story of Roger Bannister.
No.
Roger Bannister was the first person to run the 4-minute mile. Something happened to the belief system of athletes after one person did it. They shifted from hope to knowing, to it being real. Since then, over 1,800 athletes have ran the 4-minute mile. And so for me, it was this transition of 14 months of like killing myself and all this debt, and my parents sitting me down and saying, real estate's for rich people, you're making a mistake, you're disappointing us, and all my friends making fun of me, and that little voice in my head saying, you look too young, you don't have any money, your shitty Nissan pickup truck sucks, and all this stuff, to all of a sudden it's like, damn, I had this $40,000 check, and I'm just like, my life's changed. Like I knew right then, like that was the day my life changed, because I went from hope to knowing. And when that happened, I was like, I'm going to collapse time. I'm gonna become the #1 wholesaler in the state of Arizona, and I'm gonna smoke everybody. And it took me 2.5 months to get my next deal, maybe 4 weeks to get my next deal, 2 weeks to get my next deal, and it was just like boom, 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 boom. And now I'm in the game.
And now everything started firing. You started firing on all cylinders, and it goes back into what I coach a lot of our folks on, is like that authentic relatability personality. It's not always about the best sales pitch or the most knowledge on a specific product. It really comes down to just connecting, especially at a deeper level. And one thing that really jumps out at me is the, cooking spaghetti. I think it's just a lot. I think it goes to show like that real authentic connection where people are like, it goes a little further than like the superficial. Oh, I'm going to sit on their couch and, I'm going to have a purchase contract or an ER and like, oh, I'm going to close this deal. It really is more of like breaking bread together and just, being yourself and talking. So I love that. And I guess that really kind of segues us into that significant financial breakthrough that you had at the $40,000 check. And from there, what happens? Do you take that $40,000, go put it all on PPC and run out of money?
Can I cuss on this?
Yes, you can. Yes.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I went to Vegas.
Okay, I
like
love it.
I'm partying. Like I'm like, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Like I'm
You're on top
finally
of
this is
the
the
world.
most money I had made in my like. I actually did 3 things. If I'm being honest, I blew all my portion of that. My dad needed help at the time, and I gave my parents some money, and that was like a rewarding feeling of like, boom, I got you, Dad. Like you were talking all that shit, I got you, right? And my girl at the time had stuck with me through a lot of that, so I bought an engagement ring. That was another thing I did. And the third thing I did is I bought a Tempur-Pedic bed.
Wow.
Because think about it, like when you're broke, you're not worrying about your health, you're not worrying about your sleep, you're working. I was up at 3:30 working on my computer. I was trying desperately to get a deal. There wasn't like relaxing time. I wasn't ice bathing. I see all these kids nowadays and like they're doing red light therapy and I'm like,
Ice bath.
I don't even know what you're doing right now, but you're not doing what you need to be doing to get this thing going. And so I bought this bed because it was the one reward for myself of like, I'm going to give you the gift of like sleeping good at night.
And then
then I fucked off the rest.
And then you're just focused, right? You're focused in on wholesaling. And I tell a lot of folks too, that especially in wholesaling or being a traditional agent, like getting that first deal, you really prove it to yourself. Like all the stuff you saw in the seminars and all the guys you saw driving nice cars and all the real estate stuff you saw finally became real. You proved it to yourself that like, okay, this does actually equal dollars in my bank account, if done the right way and for long enough and persistence and all that good stuff to get there. So after that, 40,000 is gone. Let's fast forward a little bit and kind of get into, when you start kind of trying to scale and take that next step, because I think a lot of people sometimes hit a plateau where they're a great salesperson and maybe they're doing X amount of deals a month or a year, but they have a harder time kind of bringing it to that next level.
So I did one thing that I kind of stole from the Navy. When you're in the Navy, there's a system for everything, like making your bed, shining your shoes. I was in navigation, like taking care of the charts. Everything was systematized, documented processes. So it's not like I knew what an SOP was, but I understood that systems were important. So I'm here and I'm like now starting to do some wholesale deals, and I'm realizing nobody has any systems. Everybody's winging it. Everybody's just like floundering around trying to do deals. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to dedicate every Saturday forever to Systems Saturday. And I'm going to build a system around something that I'm doing. And I'm going to do what the Navy taught me. I'm going to automate, delegate, systematize, delete, something. I'm going to figure out how to build this into a machine. And so that's what I did. I did Systems Saturday, where it's like, how do you send out, how do you market a property? Through email. How do you market a property on social? How do you market a property on whatever? I would pick one thing and I would document it. And it grew. You do that for 4 years straight, and all of a sudden you have everything documented in your world. And I was also, the other thing I did that was really smart is I was very cutting edge, where I can see where the puck was going. And so this was before email marketing and text. I was the first investor in the country to do mass email marketing. The #1. this is way back 2004, 2005. I was doing mass email marketing before there was ever even a thing. I built a desktop application called C2C, and I got lucky. I was playing golf one day, and there was a guy checking me in, and he was coding something while he was checking me in. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm building a way to send coupons to our golfers." And I instantly connected that to real estate, and I said, "Man, I'm going to wholesale so many houses by blasting out property flyers. If you could blast out a coupon, I could blast out a property flyer." So I was an early adopter of tech. I've been doing AI in my marketing for 5 years now. Nobody even knew what that was. We had lead score. I paid a fortune to programmers to lead score every homeowner in the United States, take 2,300 data points, build an algorithm that told me this person has a very high likelihood and probability of selling within the next 90 days at a discount. So, when you have an unfair advantage, it's a lot easier to scale. When you have systems, it's a lot easier to scale. And so that was my thing. And the other thing I did was I stopped being a wholesaler as fast as humanly possible. Because it's stupid for you to make 10 or 15 or 20 grand flipping a property to somebody who goes makes 80 or 100. The only difference between the two of you is that level of fear that's blocking you from saying, why am I not keeping these properties? Why am I not doing this myself? And then the last piece of that was I wholesaled so many houses, I made $1.3 million, and I had a $580,000 tax bill. I blew through all my money that first big year. I didn't save a dollar. I didn't pay taxes on it. Nobody told me that part. And I'm like, "Lyle, where were you where was the tax conversation?" And he was like, "I'm not your dad. Like, I'm not going to tell you everything. Like, I thought you knew to pay your taxes." And I was like, "Well, no. I wasn't even on payroll. I was just taking like draws. As soon as the money came in, I would take a draw." Well, when you owe the IRS 580 grand, the letters get more aggressive as they come. And, that was a big eye-opener of like, I'm not really in real estate wholesaling. I'm just a marketing deal finder guy. I need to own this real estate. I got to get depreciation. I got to get the write-offs, and I need to figure out how to eliminate these tax bills.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Well, it sounds like, so for those first 4 years, and we were talking before we went on air about like maybe Luke wants to be the best wholesaler in the state and I want to be the best agent in the state. It sounds like it took you a full 4 years to realize that maybe you didn't want to be the best wholesaler in the state. So what was it that tax bill that changed for you to realize that you were thinking too small?
Not necessarily. I still wanted to be the best wholesaler because I like winning. I just started to see a bigger picture and that I wasn't playing the right game and that I was never going to scale to the place where I wanted to go. I wasn't thinking about becoming a millionaire. I was trying to like, how do I make 500 million? Well, it's not going to be in residential real estate. It's not going to be in wholesaling. It's not going to be rehabbing. It's not going to be in developing even. Last year I built 28 houses in Biltmore and Arcadia and all these places. Single family is not the game. Commercial's the game. So I had to like slowly like get myself there. And I think I even took probably 8 years too long. And that's what we were talking about before this thing kicked off is like, you guys aren't playing the right game. You need to think bigger than what you currently are. Yeah, wholesaling's a great gateway and it's gonna make you some earned income, but you're gonna have a tax problem now. So like last year or 2 years ago, I bought a commercial building. I paid $4.2 million for it. It had raised flooring. This is 2.5 years ago when bonus depreciation was still 100%. And that raised flooring was treated like built-in furniture, basically. I was able to wipe out $2.4 million in taxes by cost-sagging that building and accelerating the depreciation. Once you start to learn, like this is what rich people do, and this is how they think about, like they have their earned income over here, and then they have their investments over here, and how do I eliminate all my earned income? It's in the right investments.
It's doing the cost segs, owning the asset, and hopefully scaling that part too. And it sounds like, commercial is really that next step that you took was, doing residential or wholesale and then getting more into the residential flipping and then doing the development. Let's talk a little bit about the developing and kind of how that breaks out. I get a lot of questions, people, especially wholesaling. I'm probably, sending you properties, lots and scrapers in Arcadia and PV, and kind of walk us through, an agent and an investor that goes on a listing appointment, goes on an appointment to purchase, and they have a couple there that's like, hey, this is going to sell to a developer, and we know our numbers, and they always think it's a lot cheaper than what it actually is. So can you just speak to like the actual true cost of developing a luxury property, and then also what is the current profit that you're looking for, once everything's said and done and you guys exit?
Yeah, so it's changed a lot, and it's hopefully going to get better if interest rates come down. But all that buying activity, like developing, got really expensive after COVID because of the supply chain. It's not the same as it used to be. So when we were building these houses, I was floating like between $10 to $12 million in just floating cost. When you're building 15 houses at a time, I have to pre-buy garage doors 7 months in advance. Well, if you're doing construction, if you're getting construction loans on all of these houses, you can't take your drawback until it's installed and inspected. So we're not even building I have one single family big Arcadia development going on right now, and that's only because somebody else got hurt, and I came in and put up a bunch of money and unhurt them, and I'm stealing like most of the money out of the deal. I'm like the shark that's coming in
up a lot of
somebody
capital,
else's deal. And otherwise, they were going to lose like $400K if I didn't step in. So it was like me just taking advantage of an opportunity. But like, I wouldn't be out there building luxury houses right now. I don't think that's a good play until the interest rates truly do come back down.
You get some relief on rates, because there's a cost of money too, and that's what I have that conversation a lot with sellers is like, yeah, you're going to buy the house, but there's a cost of tying up that capital, right? Especially for that long doing that development. So
and it's going to cost significantly more than you think.
Yeah.
And there's always problems. Like, I don't think there's been a development that I've done that the city, like, did you know in Scottsdale there's a builder tax? If you knock down every wall, they're going to come back after the fact, whatever it sold for, that back end number, they're going to tax you on that. Well, we're idiots. We built 25 houses in Scottsdale, and then they came and they go, and of course it's some neighbor that has some issue with the wall you put up, and next thing you know, the city's coming in looking at one of your deals, they look at your LLC, they see 20 other builds, and they hit you on all of them. So I had like a $250,000 tax bill out of nowhere.
Wow.
That I didn't even know, and if I would have known it, I would have pre-built it into my sales price, but now it's after the fact.
Or leave.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
no, absolutely. And
building's a game. When the interest rates are good and the market's pumping, builders make tons of money. When the market pulls back, builders go bankrupt.
it seems to me like it's a boom bust thing. They're either on top of the world,
Exactly.
or they're getting hurt bad. And that explains the reason why you see, like in my neighborhood, you'll see like people leave one wall up. And I don't know if that's the loophole here.
There is a
like,
loophole
There's one wall up, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's brand new build. Like, well, you guys have one
Speculative
wall.
builder's tax, and so you leave up some walls, you don't pay that tax.
What's the most amount of money net profit that you've made on a development deal? Just to give our audience and the folks watching like a good.
It wasn't uncommon for me to make 700 to 800 grand on a house.
Okay.
Yeah, they would take 18 to 22 months, somewhere in that range, to build. We were building. We focused on like modern farmhouse, 3 to 40, 500 square foot, like kind of that new money, Biltmore Heights, Arcadia, kind of like new money. And we would make 700, 800 grand, but we started seeing the profits compress. And I squeaked out. My last few, we broke even. On one deal, we lost money right at the very end. And the only reason we lost money is I paid my investors back what they should have made if it wouldn't have been cost overrun and taken so long and we didn't mistime some things, because we did make some mistakes on the build side, and I didn't want to punish my investors that partnered with me on the deal and put up money. So I paid them out even though we didn't actually make the money, and I didn't need to do that, but I think that's the right thing to take care of your investors, because I just look at it like there's going to be another play. I'm gonna make that call again and say, hey, I need 500K, 800K, do you want it back in? And because I took care of them, they'll come back
It's
in.
going to come back, yeah. And it goes back into the relationship, and it kind of touches on what we were talking about earlier, where, it really comes down to those relationships, and especially if you're able to raise money. And that kind of brings us to our next topic of like, thinking bigger, right? Wholesale real estate, being an agent, being an investor, kind of that next phase is really, kind of raising the money And then from there, like, are you actively raising capital? Like, walk us through what that looks like. And are you doing any long-term holds? And I'm sure you get people that come and say, Cody, I want to go buy a rental with you, and we'll own it for 10 years. Or are you really more focused on, raising money for the shorter term?
So here's what I would say to an agent that's newer. I would say, look, you have access to certain things. Play in your skill set. Go find a great deal and bring it to somebody like me that's a killer deal, and I'll probably partner with you on it. I'll put up all the money. We'll figure out a way to make money from it. I'm not saying I wouldn't do residential. I'm just saying it's not a scalable play for me right now to really focus heavy on it. But if the deal's right and they lock it up at the right price, I might be back in. So I would squat up with somebody that wants to do deals. That's how I would build my credit with the real estate world, is just like by squatting up and partnering with other people, be a great deal finder. And I would take whatever I could get out of that partnership until I built up enough credibility. That's that. I just wanted to say that because I know you have a lot of agents. To answer your question about raising capital, the bigger the deal, the easier it is to raise the money. Right now, we have Clever Capital Fund is my fund. And you can go to clevercapitalfund.com, and we're a equity fund. So like we buy commercial assets in 3 major areas right now. So we're really focused on affordable housing. I kind of look at it like Wade and Gretzky talks. Like, it's great players go to where the puck is going, not to where it was. And I believe that right now we need affordable housing more than ever. There's a major housing shortage. It's crazy overpriced. It's really sad that people can't own land. The hedge funds and the corporations they're on track to buy, 50, 60% of every property in America. The only reason they pumped the brakes is just the last year and a half, 2 years when the financing changed. But they were on track to buy 1 out of every 5 houses, 1 out of every 4 houses in America. That's crazy. We're decimating the middle class. And so we have to get back to ownership. And so I want to give people that ability. So we've been buying 5-acre parcels on the outskirts of town, Santan, Maricopa, subdividing those into 4 1.2-acre parcels, bringing in the wells, bringing in the electricity, bringing in the roads, and bringing in manufactured housing. Cavco, like these manufactured housing, this product is really nice. It's not shitty like your grandma's trailer park. This is a nice house. They come in, they sandwich them together. They're up in 4 months. So I can right now, you can bring me a rehab and go, dude, we can rehab this house in 6 months, be in and out and make $40K. And I'm going to go, forget that. I'm going to go buy this 5-acre land, subdivide it, be in and out from the time I get the subdividing done and I actually order the product. 3 months later, I have a finished four different manufactured housings, finished product. This is a 2,100 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and with, I might be all in at like 250, 300K, and I'm able to mark it up 100K and sell those at warp speed with FHA financing, 3.5% down. People are into a brand new product for 13, 14, 15 grand. That's a need. And so I think there's riches in the niches, so I like to find these little niches like that and then use my own capital, go in there, model it out, do a couple of them, build the case studies, and then go raise a bunch of money to scale. That's one thing. The other thing is, if you look at commercial real estate, banks are downsizing right now. Every CVS and Walgreens in the country is going to, all those buildings CVS is going to close all of those down eventually. It's happening. So it's like we know that's where things are going. Banks are shutting banks down. They're moving into grocery stores. They're moving online. They don't want this massive footprint. But do banks have the best real estate in the world?
Didn't you buy a bank?
I bought 2 banks in one day. And that real estate has 100,000 plus cars that drive by it every single day. It's the best real estate in the game. It's hard to break into the good old boys club of buying banks or buying CVS's or buying old Home Depots or whatever, but every one of those products has a commercial agent that's attached to it that reps them. Like one of our business partners repped all the AutoZones. So it's like he knows everybody at AutoZone and all those AutoZone buildings like the back of his hand. When they start closing those things down, I want to be the guy to go in there and try to buy all that real estate. I love the single tenant triple net lease game. I love taking an old bank building and converting it, like either knocking it down and converting it into a Circle K or a gas station or a car wash or a Chipotle with the drive-through. If you think about a deal, if I can tell you on the front end of this bank, I already have a buyer lined up, they're AAA credit rating, they pay their bills ahead of time, this is the best damn deal that we're ever gonna do, and it's pre-sold almost. These companies like Chipotle, they want drive-throughs, right? They realized very quickly in COVID that you can have 5 Chipotles all making X, and you put one with the drive-through across the street, and it's gonna do 2 to 3 times what all the other ones do. And so there's AI software out there that we have access to that allows us to see every Chipotle, every McDonald's, every Salad and Go, and then put a 5-mile circle around those and see all the coverage areas, and then show us the ones that have drive-throughs, and those populate, and then you can see all the gaps, and it's like, now we know, we're just reverse wholesaling commercial deals. That's how we're looking at it, and it's like, let's go fill the need for these. They got great money, they got great credit, they want this product. So we're buying old banks, and now that we're in the good old boys club, what's happening? I buy 2 banks, now all of a sudden I get this flood of bank opportunities. Well, I need a lot of capital to be able to do that. And so we needed to create a fund that does the affordable housing, that does the banks, and that does ground up development. So I own the Hart Street corner on Chandler and Cooper, Chandler Heights and Cooper, or Chandler Boulevard and Cooper. And it's a 5.5 acre parcel. We're subdividing it. I already have 2 of the parcels already pre-sold. And so that entitlement game, that ground up development game is very sexy because these buyers already are telling me, we want in this location, we're ready to sign an LOI right now. As soon as you get this entitlement done, we're ready to go. So I'm taking a bank and I'm buying them for 2.1 million and I'm flipping them for 4. Who wants to do that?
Yeah.
Everybody,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, let's go. But I need a lot of capital to do that. And so we created an equity fund that allows you to put your money in for 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years. If you put it in for 1 year, you get 10% on your money, okay? You put it in for 3 years, you get 12% on your money, and for 5 years, you get 14% on your money, and it starts paying out next quarter. So you don't have to wait for me to buy an apartment building. Have any of you guys invested in a syndication or anything like that?
I haven't done it personally, but I'm familiar with Grant Cardone's syndication.
Okay, yeah, syndications, right? I've invested in a lot of syndications. What happened when the market turned? I bought an 81 unit over here by ASU with a group, and as soon as the freaking market turned, our whole plan went out the window, and what do they do? A capital call, stop paying dividend, like stop paying their pref checks, and it's like, now I gotta put more money into a dying deal, or I'm gonna lose all my money.
Well,
Right? I gotta wait 5 years, 3 years to get my money. With our fund, you can start getting paid next quarter. And any of the properties that we actually keep and put into service will depreciate, and you'll be able to get some tax benefits from your money that's invested.
Do you have minimum investments on those?
100K, but you got to be accredited investor. That's the other thing, is becoming an accredited investor is phase 1 of your journey. It's like, how do I get to that point where I'm actually making enough money to become accredited?
Yeah.
And let's speak to the triple net lease too, because I know we have audience members and folks watching that may not understand the single tenant triple net lease game. And it's probably one of the best games you guys can get into, because it truly is, when you hear about all these gurus and these people talking passive income and invest in real estate and kind of set it, forget it kind of type mentality, the triple net truly is, they're covering maintenance, they're covering all of your expenses. So it really is not like, lease into even like a commercial, building where typically you have a 5 or 10 year term. It truly is, passive in that sense, right? Where you're not
Mailbox money.
Yeah, you're not having to deal with it. And then just to speak to the, the subdividing, and, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of the 4 acre parcel subdivided into 1 acre lots, and manufacturers on them, is because you don't have to get a public report, and it is a bit easier than doing, like, let's say a 10 acre parcel. It
Well,
goes
you also
into a
avoid an
subdivision.
HOA. Like that's our goal, is to avoid like having to form an HOA.
Yeah.
These people that buy in the outskirts of town, they want little land. They don't want any. They stay out of my pocket and stay off my back. Like that's what they want, you know, and
it's nice not to have that HOA or not to have, you know, all of the stuff that goes along with doing more than 4. I think is it 6 at a time or 5?
over 5, you start to have to form an HOA.
Yeah, and then it starts getting more complicated. So I think you're going to start seeing a lot of these, you know, these areas around the outskirts of the Phoenix metro area get developed in that 4 acre or that 4 parcel kind of small little community. And then, you know, shifting gears from the development, you know, private equity, single tenant, triple net leases. Where do you feel like the market's going kind of trajectory-wise right now? Because we did just see a 50 basis point drop, which I know it's not directly correlated to mortgage rates.
This is a great question. So if I was to say, when is it time to buy and own real estate, I would say right now. It was actually a few months ago. And here's why. There is a level when the Fed drops the rates, and it's 4.25, that renting becomes more expensive than owning. The moment that happens, you'll see the flood come off the sidelines and there's a lot of money on the sidelines. There's a lot of people renting right now, me included. People that are buying right now, they're gonna see this massive influx of the price driven up when these people come off the sidelines. But it needs another, you know, quarter point, half a point to get us there. Hopefully by next year. You know, the Fed's going to do it, maybe a quarter point this next one, and then by the beginning of next year, we should see the flood. And so if you own the real estate now, you'll get that forced appreciation. If you wait, you're going to be competing with a lot of other people. So that's why I say now would be a great time. So that's where I think things are going.
I do want to backtrack a little bit. We talked about like the flip game within the commercial space, but when you're actually developing new, what type of tenants or buyers are you looking for when you're developing from scratch on commercial?
Well, we kind of have a niche based on my partner's credibility within the space. You know, I'm a partner guy. I love to partner with people that have great track records, and I know what I'm good at, right? I'm good at this. I'm going to be out here raising capital, talking about stuff. I'm not going to be in the weeds analyzing a deal and negotiating commercial leases and all that stuff. My commercial partners handle all that. And so we love the quick service restaurant space. We think that there's a tremendous demand for, like I said, drive-through product.
The salad and go type model?
Salad and go, very small footprint. So you could take, let's say, a bank building, subdivide it into 2 parcels. You know, banks have a lot of parking lot space too. By the time you subdivide it and put 2 quick service restaurants with drive-throughs, as long as you can get that approved through the city, you're going to make a fortune. Like it's going to, and those are great. You know, some of them want a land lease, some of them just want to buy it from you and do it all on their own. And I think that's where we're going to focus. Yeah.
Very nice. I was also curious too, because we talked a little bit about the guru space, and I think, you know, the real estate as a whole, we have a ton of gurus. I think everybody thinks they're a mentor, they can sell a course. I have a couple questions in regards to this. How do you manage to get good content in front of your students and also run your business? And how do, people that are looking to get good education vet out where they're receiving that from?
Yeah, so I was at in 2009, I started Clever Investor. By 2010, I was fully gunning. I was at the transition from old school gurus, like what I was used to, the seminars and the infomercials, to like online. And I've sold $122 million worth of online education since then. So I scaled that business. I sold it at the end of last year, did really well on the sale. And I know this business better than anybody. Your favorite guru came through my camp. I can almost guarantee it. Like if they're a new school guru, like I somehow was involved in either mentoring them or helping them build their funnels, build their direct response marketing plays, or they stole my shit. So that's fine, and yeah, it's just we pioneered the model, not to brag. I was just at the right place at the right time, and I had to figure it all out. And why reinvent something that's working, right? They see me gunning. I was spending $4 or $5 million a year on Facebook ads in 2011, building my brand, building this up. And so I think finding somebody who's actually doing deals, there's a lot of great teachers out there right now. Pace Morby and Jameel and these guys from Arizona, I am very proud of them. I've known them for a long time. I've been mentoring them for a while. They are some of the best actual deal makers, and there's no better person in this space than Pace Morby at building community. Nobody. And I don't think anybody ever will outpace Pace because he's willing to do shit that nobody else is willing to do. He'll go live for 24 hours and piss in a bottle on the camera and not stop talking about deals. Like, who else is willing to go that hard? Nobody. I wasn't, And so I would find people with communities that you can get plugged into, because by squatting up is going to make the difference in this real estate game. When you're alone like I was for 14 months, very difficult. The second I found the Jack Miller group and got plugged in with Lyle, started crushing.
Yeah. No, I think, and that speaks to a lot of the gurus and, Pace and Jamil, and I'm grateful to not know them personally, but like be around the same people they are and be in some of those rooms. And I mean, it speaks to their character, and I can't speak highly enough about both of them, because I think you look at Keegley, you look at some of these different, communities that Jamil's done, and it's like, man, it's, these guys have gone from a small footprint to doing, wholesaling I think they're nationwide franchising it now and doing that model too. So I think that's awesome to see them actually. I don't know if they're the first wholesale company to franchise or if there's any other ones.
No, Ugby's Ugly Houses was a wholesale company at its core, Yeah. Home Investors was the first. And there's been a handful since then. And I don't know if that model's going to continue to be the model, because I do think wholesaling's changing with the real estate rules and laws and stuff changing. I think it's really good if you become a real estate agent, if you want to be in the wholesaling game. It used to be where we would not want to be licensed to be in the wholesale game. Now I think it's what you should be doing.
Yeah, and I can speak to that because I've had my license for 6 years, and 2 years in, I got really heavily focused on wholesaling and made that transition. And now that's really primarily what the Thrive Real Estate team does, is we are a wholesale real estate team. So we do dabble a little bit here and there in the retail space, but it's really just because we're phone prospectors at heart, right? So if you go into our office, it's like, cold call, dial, like it's just a machine, right? We're in there dialing nonstop. So let's kind of switch to that. Like lead gen, I think, is something that regardless of what business you're in, whether it's real estate, roofing, lending, whatever it is, really it comes down to leads, right? Can you get yourself in front of prospects? Can you market? Can you build those authentic relationships? And I think that's something that you've done at a really high level for a long time, is not only the marketing space, but also building true brand. And I kind of differentiate those two. I think marketing is one thing and branding is a whole nother thing, right? So I guess, can you speak to that? Like in terms of like customer acquisition cost, I know you said you were spending quite a bit on Facebook. You were
for education.
Yeah, you were early in email. Like what would you suggest to, a new hungry investor out there? Maybe they're, they don't have a lot of cash to their name, but they may have a few $1,000 to throw out there.
You don't even need to spend money. Look, this game can be played two ways. You can either go direct to seller or you can work the agents. I would work the agents if I didn't have money. That's one thing, is I'd become the best on the phones with agents and getting pocket listings, pre-listings, and working those agent relationships to bring me deals, while at the same time I was building my cash buyer database, so I had an avenue to move those properties to make money from them, all those agent relationships, because agents just want to make money, right? They just don't want to waste their time with jokamos that talk a big game and they don't actually perform ever. So like you got to be able to perform if you're going to work with agents. The other thing is, I think building a brand right now is easier than ever. It's easier than ever. We all have a cell phone. We all have a social media account. You're just not putting in the effort nearly at the level that you should. Like when I'm coaching people on like building a brand, I'm like, okay, how many times are we going to put out a piece of content? They're like 3 a day. And I'm like, okay, you're going to put out 24 pieces of content every day. And they're like shocked. They're like, how am I going to do that?
It's got to be a perfect staged in a studio,
and I'm
perfectly
like,
shot,
you're not,
little robot video.
Yeah, I'm like you're not even in the game
Yeah.
until you're posting once every hour.
Yeah.
And it just fries their brain, because they're like, I can't do that. I'm never going to get any work done. And I'm like, you're still thinking of, like, dude, you can go into ChatGPT right now, come up with a 1-minute topic, 24 of them, and bust them all out in the next 2 hours, and boom, you're done. And have AI literally put the whole video together and put it out there. Like, it's not as hard as it used to be. And maybe I'm pushing you guys like a little hard, like saying 24, but 3 is not enough. your personality is really important. It's not about being a Grant Cardone or a Cody Sperber or a Pace Morby or anybody else that you see online. You need to be authentically you. I got to go back to Lyle's advice, like be authentically you and enthusiastic. You know, like my content is like, I'm like the king of self-deprecating humor, right? It's like I can go around and be like, look at my Lambos, look at my lifestyle, I'm the baddest motherfucker in here, and like kind of shit on everybody. That's not my personality. I don't like to wear a suit. I don't want to be standing in front of my car all the time. Like, I think that's whack. So like, I'm like, making fun of my kids and myself and like fucked up deals and like I'm showing the good, the bad, and the ugly. My tribe's not huge. I'm not the most popular guy out there. Half the time, you know, I lose followers just as many as I gain in a day. But I don't care because I'm just creating the people that resonate with me buy my shit. They love coming to my events and they love doing deals with me. And I think like the bigger picture was like, for me is like, I'm going to build this brand because I want to get people to bring me deals. And so my number one course I ever sold was called dodealswithme.com. Right? It's a very simple business model. I don't want to put money out for advertising or marketing, so I'm going to get 2,000 bird dogs to bring me deals. And I created a website called sendusthedeals.com, and then I created a course called dodealswithme.com, and it's just a basic wholesaling course. And I sold the wholesaling course for $97. And if they wanted to pay an extra $97 a month, I'll get on a coaching call, you know, every week we'll get on a call. We don't talk about building and investing in business and building a brand. I teach them the beginning part of wholesaling. Find me a deal. And I just keep repeating that over and over on every call. Here's all the ways to find me a deal. But Cody, how do I build a buyer's list? That's none of your business. Yeah. I do the buyer's list thing. You bring me deals, I dispo. I make money from them, and then we split the profits. I share that because you don't need this huge marketing budget and all this stuff. You need creativity. In real estate, you'll never have a money problem, but you will have a creativity problem.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to a lot of the at least the agents that I talk to or investors. You know, I get my image and I got to be this perfectly crafted, you know, person on the social media channel all the time, and I'm like, that's not authentic to who you are. Yeah. Because
what about the agent that runs through listings and like just does like the listing preview at warp speed?
Yeah.
What a great hook.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many of those little unique things that are coming up, or just people that are authentically themselves that I don't feel like maybe are the most sharp in every social media post. So, and what do you think that boils down to? Do you think that's fear of looking a certain way? Do you think that's brand? Because I know some people that's not their image in a sense, or
I don't know.
Maybe it is kind of like the standing in front of the Lambo.
We're all scared.
Yeah.
When you're new, you're scared. Like that's very normal. I just look at it like this: like fear. There's fear of success, fear of failure, fear of judgment. All these fears, right? The number one differentiator between successful and unsuccessful people is how people think about themselves. If I have self-efficacy, I'm going to be more successful. If I believe I deserve it, I'm going to be more successful. There's still the fear there. I'm just going to work through it, right? And I think people just need to ask better questions. Like, here's a great analogy. People do things that they're taught from their people around them in their environment or their parents or, you know, somebody in a real estate school told them to do things a certain way. And so they just carry that and they just keep doing it. I look at it like this, like I go to my girl, she makes a ham. She cuts off both sides of the ham and then serves it to me. And I'm like, why do you cut off both sides of the ham? She goes, I don't know. My mom does it that way. I'm like, okay. So then I see her mom and I'm like, hey, why do you cut off both sides of the ham? And she goes, I don't know. My mom did it that way. And then I go to the grandma and I go, Grandma, why do you cut off both sides of the ham? She looks at me kind of confused and goes, because my pan was small. So we all think that there's some deep meaning behind why we do what we do and these traditions were passed down. Nope, the pan was just tiny, so she had to cut the ham down. But we continue doing it. It's like in wholesaling, where's the innovation? What are you guys doing that's unique and creative to move this industry forward? And that's how I think about content. Don't just do the same content that the last guy was doing. Innovate a little bit and be playful with it and try different things. I think just because you do that, if you're consistent enough, it will work.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And if anyone follows me, they probably have seen I'm definitely not the most like polished in that sense, but I'm always willing to try things. And it goes back to the Gary Vee model where I read a book recently called Jab, Jab, Right Hook. And if you guys read Jab, Jab, Right Hook, in that book, he talks a lot about, not always asking for the business, but doing the jab, then asking for the business. And I think it relates a lot to social media because not every post has to be, or every piece of content has to be a listing or a house you flipped, or it could be something like you make in front of your kids, but that's a jab, right? That's just kind of building that audience where, the next post is maybe something about the private equity or driving traffic to a landing page or whatever that thing you're looking for. So moving on from social media, I think really, one thing that I've kind of had to reflect on and understand being, the Young Money Mindset podcast and being really, everything about mindset, hustle, and really just trying to help people achieve their dreams out there is like, if you're, regardless of age, but if you're out there and you're maybe switching career paths, right? Or you're just coming out of college, you're just coming out of a high school program, and, you have this societal pressure to be someone, how do you really focus in on the real estate side? Because I think you had mentioned one of your students, a very successful student of yours, Austin Zabak. Mm-hmm. Sometimes myself, like I've done it, we get this shiny object syndrome where we start focusing in on wholesale. Next thing you know, we're an agent, we're a fitness guru, we're trying to do everything we can. So how do you kind of put those blinders on? Because I think that's one thing you've done really well. And then we'll kind of segue into the floor daddy and how all that works out.
Couple thoughts on that topic. First off, the most delusional person is the man in the mirror. We believe that we can take it all on, and all we end up doing is dying a death by 1,000 cuts. We never become great at the one thing that we should be focusing on. My mentor said a really great statement when I was first starting, because I started, everybody starts to go down this path. He said, yes gets you out of Egypt, but no takes you to the promised land. I was like, I have no idea what that means. But over time, it started to internalize as I was trying to do too much and failing. You gotta be that horse with blinders on. And it's like, he always said all these weird sayings. That was one of them. The other one was starve the ponies, feed the stallions. Same concept, where it's just like, you gotta just do the same thing over and over. It's like mastering the mundane. A lot of times in real estate, it's very boring. Like a lot of our work is very boring, repetitive work. Making the calls, sending the emails, making the calls, the follow-up. The money is in mastering the mundane and staying consistent long enough without getting distracted. Talking about Austin Zabak, I showed him how to get to his first $300,000 or $400,000 a year wholesaling houses. Next thing you know, the guy's doing ATMs and he's doing a marketing agency and he sees, Ty Lopez do something and Grant Cardone do something. Next thing you know, he's like all over the damn place. And it's like, bro, you've lost your way. Like, you're that guy standing in front of a rented Range Rover on social media. Like, where did this come from? Like, and what happened to his business? And it took him going through that evolution to understand what I was saying to him. But then finally, after some time and some failure, he internalized it and then got back on track. And now he's like one of the most successful agents and teams in the Valley, and he's scaling like crazy, and I couldn't be more proud of him just because he's really doing what he's not pretending on social media to be something he's not. He's really doing the business at a very high level, and he's staying consistent with it. And if you look at his content arc, like it went from like good to really cheesy. I'm glad I didn't say that. Cheesy. and then phenomenal again. And it's resonating, and he's building a great tribe. And so if anybody can take that advice and actually get out of their own way, is you say yes in the beginning, and that's fine, but you got to quickly master the art of saying no.
Yeah, and being a leader too, speaking of the leaders out there, like, the team leaders, the people within teams, the intrapreneurs, the entrepreneurs, like making sure you're holding your other folks accountable, whether you're in lending, roofing, fitness, real estate. It's like, hey, if you see a friend veering off path, like, I can't tell you, I got buddies like, dude, have you seen this car wash business? Or like Cody Sanchez on Instagram is like telling everyone to go buy.
Laundromat or something?
Yeah, laundromat, right? It's like ATM, laundromat, a car wash. It's like, so, make sure you hold those people closest around you accountable too, even if there's no value or gain on your end, right? Just from a friendship standpoint of like, hey, I see you kind of veering off a little bit. You're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. Like I remember back in the day when we just did wholesale, right? Or we just did this one thing. Like I think you should focus in on that.
Yeah, even like Carlos Reyes right now, big wholesaler here in town, just told me the other day, I'm going back to basics. And guess what? We're making a shit ton of money again. I said, funny how that works.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's true for all of us.
Yeah, I love it, man. What else do you have?
I wanted to dive in a little bit to leverage because I know, a lot of our audience is people that are maybe thinking about getting into real estate. And, we know that you need some leeway. You need some reserves to get into real estate. And, maybe you make your first deal and it sounds like you were lucky enough to kind of stack some up there in the beginning. But what was like the first key component that you started to leverage? Was it your partners? Was it people, connections? Was it the AI? What's one piece that some people can take away from today that they can implement that's not going to break the bank?
I mean, that's such a great word, leverage, right? Because that's really what we master in real estate is how to leverage everything. Money, time, skills, relationships, all of it. I feel like people think that they need a lot of money to get in real estate, and that's just not the truth. I bought my first probably 30 or 40 houses with like $10 down, wraparound mortgages, sub-2 transactions, seller carrybacks. There's 1/3 of every single-family property in America is owned free and clear. It's a staggering number of free and clear properties out there, much more than you think. And so those landlords, those owners, can be your bank. You can bypass a normal bank and work with somebody to be your bank. So don't think that you need to have this huge savings account and all this, time invested. I have a course called the Free House Formula, where all we do is teach people how to get their first free house. Right? It's a very simple concept, very complicated paperwork, and that's what scares most people. Is like, oh, I don't want to screw this up, and like, I don't teach my students to go do a sub-2. I teach them to do a wraparound mortgage or a mirror wrap because it's a cleaner way of doing the same type of transaction. But that paperwork that's where you got to learn. So I brought in my attorney to teach you how to fill out your paperwork. And then I created these little cartoons for my students because a hurdle everybody was having was like, how do I explain this to a seller? But like, you don't. You hand them a cartoon. Yeah. And that cartoon will explain the concept. And then at the end of the cartoon, you go, so do you have any questions? And they go, yeah, I'm interested in this. Or are you interested in learning more? Yeah, I'm interested in this. Great. Let's work out a deal on your particular situation. It's a numbers game, but they're out there. And even in commercial, it's even better. Commercial seller finance is very common, right? Residential, it's a little less common unless they're older. If they were around in the 80s, a lot of people that were buying and selling real estate in the 80s, because interest rates were 12, 14%, they bought on a lease option. They bought on a seller carry or something like that. And so it's much more, they're more open to it. I don't know if that answers your question, but as far as leverage, I would just squat up. The best thing you could do is go find a mentor, find a team. Like if you guys, right now, if they're doing the game at a high level and you guys are brand new and you're like just a bozo real estate agent that just got your license and you're like, I don't know what to do and how to make money. It's like squat up, find a great team and work their leads and do whatever you got to do to get that proximity, because that proximity is power. And maybe you say to yourself, I'm going to do 20 deals with these guys, and then I'm going to break out on my own. Okay, go do 20 deals with somebody that actually is doing it and build your credibility up. In commercial real estate, I can't, even at my level, I haven't made less than, I'm not bragging, but I haven't made less than $10 million in a year for a very long time. Even at my level, I can't roll up and go buy, like the last apartment building we bought was a 432 unit Class B, it's called Arcadia Commons right over here in Arcadia. This is a $137 million purchase. We cannot roll up and buy a big boy deal without a sponsor. You have to have somebody who's blazed the trail ahead of you, that's built the relationships with the banks, that deal, we inherited like I believe it was a 2.95% blended average interest rate that I took over. And it was a great deal. We still had to come up with $87 million. Those kind of deals, the bank doesn't care if I show up with $87 million unless I have a partner, Vina Jetty, who actually bought $1 billion worth of real estate. She's the baddest ass chick in the game. That's my partner. With her partnership, I can buy something like that. Without her, they're not going to finance me. Leverage.
I love it. Leveraging and compressing time. And I think that kind of brings us to the end here. And I think really the main takeaways, that I've learned from you, Cody, and I've learned a lot, man, just throughout the years watching your content. And I'll say one thing that it cracks me up to this day. And my fiance's around here. I have a 3-month-old baby and we haven't been getting a lot of sleep. Like we've been really just like, we have a great time and joking around. But one thing I really remember back in the day was you and your son standing out front of a Chase Bank with the green Lamborghini. Do you remember this ad, or you did so many? Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that one for some reason sticks out. And
resonated.
Daniel can tell you about it because I actually made a video on it, and I was gonna post it on social and be like, hey, like I remember Cody back in the day, green Lamborghini standing out front of Chase Bank with my son cashing checks. And I was like, I don't know, 13 or something. I thought it was so cool. I was like, holy shit, this guy's out here cashing checks in front of Chase.
I'm 80 years old at this point.
No, but I was just like,
got it.
man,
Cool.
No. So I think it's awesome to see.
You want to know what's funny about that? Get your kids involved in your business as fast as possible, man. They're watching, they're learning, they're picking stuff up. They might not they might not have any interest, and they're not acting at all like they care. They're watching. Trust me. I brought my son around with me to a bunch of my flips, a bunch of my deals. I just brought him everywhere because I was like, dude, schooling sucks. This is a way better education for you just to see and hear this language and all this stuff. And one day I was running late, and my ex at the time was like, you got to keep Hudson for a little while longer. She's running late. I'm running late. And I had to go to film. I was going to film an ad for a new wholesaling course. And so I went to one of my wholesale deals that I did. And Hudson was a little kid at the time, maybe like 5 or 6. And I set up my little tripod on the trunk of my car. And I hit record, and I go standing there, and I'm like, hey, I'm Cody Sperber, the clever investor. I just flipped this house behind me. I didn't know the entire time he's mirroring me behind me. Whatever I did with my hands, he's mirroring. If I said something, he'd be like, doing this thing. First ad he was ever in, I kind of filmed it. I was like kind of pissed. Like as a parent, I was like, really, bro, you ruined it. I nailed it. Everything was good. And you're over there like acting goofy. And he was like, I don't know what to do with myself. And I'm like, forget it. I don't have any more time. We're running this ad. I got like a 10-time ROAS, which means return on ad spend, by putting him in it. It got picked up by all these newspapers. You can Google it right now. Real estate guru's son steals the show. That ad smashed. Since then, I'm like, can I get Hudson out of school so he can get in my ad? Because I know I'm going to make way more money. And so if you can and I know even holding your daughter right now would lift your advertising. I guarantee it.
Man, we're always looking for ways to improve ROAS, man.
And start a self-directed Roth, put her in it, and start paying her.
New money maker.
Next thing you know, she's gonna be on payroll.
Yeah, you put her in a little shirt.
Payroll,
I'm working shirt. Just hold her up.
Cool. Did you have anything?
No, I really appreciate what you bring, to the real estate world and everything you do, and for coming out here today. I know I've learned a ton, and just really appreciate your time. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Look, if you got money stuck in a 401k, trapped in your house, that money's not earning you double-digit returns backed by real estate. You need to find, and you're an accredited investor, you need to find a place to put that money that's in a good vehicle. You betting it on crypto is not the play. You trying to start and scale a business right now is probably not the play. More businesses fail than succeed. There's always a smarter way to do it. And right now, if you could find a great operator that has a great track record and put that money to work where you're getting those double-digit returns, you should do that. That's why I'm always like Clever Capital Fund, clevercapitalfund.com. The other thing is, and I'll end with this because I love real estate, but you guys need to be playing a bigger game. being an entrepreneur has been the greatest blessing of my life. I met so many great people. You guys are starting here with this little thing. My first event had 11 people in it. I just threw an event in Florida 2 weeks ago. I had 2,200 people there, made millions. Like this is just the beginning of your guys' journey. Think much bigger than what you're currently doing. This wholesaling game is nothing. The rehabbing game is nothing. You got to get into commercial, and you also got to look at other business avenues as you're becoming more savvy as entrepreneurs. Take your real estate money and buy existing businesses or scale those things. Best thing that ever happened to me was selling a business. That light bulb went off, and I'm like, duh, why do I own businesses? I just want to sell them. Way cooler getting a big fat paycheck of tens of millions of dollars all at one time than struggling like running a business. This is why I started Floor Daddy. Floor Daddy is, and if any of you guys need flooring in Arizona, come to Floor Daddy. FloorDaddy.com brings the floor to your door. We want to install your flooring. And you know what? It's a fantastic business. I love the home service. You had a roofer here earlier. I don't know if the roofer's still here, but like that's awesome. Yeah. I love home services businesses. AI is not going to disrupt your plumber. You're going to call your electrician when you have a problem. You're not going to call a robot. Real estate might get outsourced. All these agents might go away someday. In fact, it's probably going to happen where agents aren't a thing in the future. It'll all be on a blockchain. It'll all be an AI robot, and it's going to go boop, and your whole transaction is going to be done with insurance. Find future-proof businesses that you can be in and start thinking about that now. We're on the cutting edge of like all this huge transformation. And that's why I like the home services space. Also, it's scalable, it's sellable, and it's boring. If you create, like the best skill I ever created was like in the marketing, in direct response. Who's a good marketer? Any of you guys good marketers? No? None of you? You guys all suck at marketing? One good marketer in this whole room?
Yeah.
She's good.
Jeez Louise, how do you generate noise? Where do you think money flows? Where the attention goes. How are you guys going to survive as agents, as business men and women, if you're not generating the attention? That's why you got to teach yourself copywriting. You got to teach yourself direct response and how to build these brands. Why did I call it Floor Daddy? Because you're never going to forget. Every single person in here, name 3 flooring companies. You can't. You might be able to name Empire. You maybe will get, what's the other one? Not Floor and Decor. Express. You might be able to do Express. You might be able to do Empire. You're definitely not naming a third one unless it's a brick and mortar store like Home Depot or Floor and Decor. And so these spaces are wide open for great marketers to come in and disrupt and make a killing. Flooring is a high ticket item. I mean, my average ticket is $6K, right? On the low end, it's $6K. I just did a $90K deal. I run at a 48% profit margin in that business. I can scale that to, $15 million in EBITDA and sell that thing for $300 million. That's a different game.
Totally different. And it's thinking bigger. And hopefully you guys have taken that away from this conversation, because that right there resonates so much. And I've seen Floor Daddy, you just catch little rumblings on social, or you see the Tesla truck drive by or something, or you're grabbing coffee and you're like, no way, did I just see that? Right?
Floor Daddy.
And it sticks in your mind. So,
and you're gonna see commercials of that coming out here really soon. We'll take over the whole industry. I'm gunning for all of these guys. I'll be the top spot here. Give me 6 months.
I love it. I believe it.
Yeah, let's go.
Everyone give Cody Sperber a big round of applause.